Sophia, who grew up with me since childhood, hinted that if I could get into the same university as her, she would be with me. I was the bottom one in the class, but I worked extremely hard, even doing practice problems while getting an intravenous drip. Finally, I achieved my dream. However, on the day I filled out my college application and excitedly went to find Sophia, I heard her mocking me with her little sisters. That idiot doesn't deserve it. I just wanted to get rid of him. It turned out that Sophia had already applied to another university. I sneered and turned away. During the 4 years of college, I continued to strive hard in my studies and career, and finally became a well-known high-quality male god. On the day of my wedding with my beloved college girlfriend Olivia, Sophia finally went crazy and climbed onto my bed trying to seduce me. I slapped her and said, "You, a mistress, don't deserve it." Let's start the story. If you like it, remember to subscribe. My thoughts went back to that noon. The conversation between Sophia and her little sister still echoed in my ears. "Sophia, you didn't apply to Harvard University. What about James?" Sophia said impatiently, "Can you not mention him? He's like a little tail following me around all day. It's so disgusting." I said I'd apply to Harvard just to shake him off. The friend beside her said with a smile, well done. You should be decisive with such an idiot. Sophia, you're really a role model for women." I was stunned. My heart seemed to be torn apart, and I was in so much pain that I couldn't breathe. Until Sophia and her little sisters walked out of the milk tea shop and saw me, they exclaimed, "James, what a coincidence. You're here to buy milk tea too." "Yeah, I am. But it wasn't that I wanted to drink it myself. I saw Sophia post a WeChat moment saying she wanted to drink milk tea because of the hot weather. I specifically went out under the scorching sun, only to hear these words. I turned around and left. Sophia chased after me and said, "Hey, James, why are you walking so fast?" Looking at Sophia's smiling face, I felt a wave of nausea. I asked coldly, "Sophia, I'm asking you, which university did you actually apply to?" I thought I would be hysterical, but at this moment, I was incredibly calm because my heart was already so painful that it became numb. Sophia was startled. She probably guessed that I had heard their conversation. "Well, my dad wants me to enter his company, so he persuaded me to apply for the management major at Stanford University." Yeah, how ridiculous. Sophia was the little princess of her family. Usually, whatever she said, her parents would agree. How could they force her? I didn't answer anymore and just sank my face. Sophia came up and grabbed my hand, saying, "James, Mia and I are going to have a dinner party. You come too. I'll explain it to you clearly when we go home together at night." I looked into her eyes, trying to find a trace of sincerity, but unfortunately, I found nothing. What did she mean by explaining during the dinner party? It was just to ask me to pay for them girls every time. What on earth was I in her eyes? A cash machine that could be summoned and dismissed at will. I had loved so humbly that my sincere heart was only worthy of being trampled by Sophia. I shook off her hand and turned to leave. This time, no matter how much she called me, I didn't look back. "Sophia, I won't be so self-demeaning anymore." Sophia came to me one more time. I ignored her, and she stopped bothering me. After that, for the whole summer vacation, she seemed to have disappeared from the world. Until one day when I was browsing Twitter, I saw a tweet from her friend. It was a photo of her surfing on the beach. Against the background of the blue sea, she was wearing a sexy bikini, sunglasses, and her long hair was fluttering in the wind. She was smiling confidently and beautifully. Once, I told Sophia with anticipation that after the college entrance examination, I wanted to get a driver's license and go on a road trip. She just perfunctorily said, "What's so fun about a road trip?" I said reluctantly, "I like it. I can see a lot of places along the way." Unexpectedly, she said without looking back, "If you like it, go by yourself. It's so hot in summer. I just want to stay at home and not go anywhere." I still remember the impatient tone when she said this. My heart ached faintly. I threw my phone aside and lay on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. Sophia didn't take the initiative to find me again, and I didn't contact her either. In fact, her disgust for me was already written all over her face. I just didn't dare to face it. I stared at the photos of her smiling for a long time. Clearly, she used to smile at me too. But when did she stop smiling at me? I couldn't remember. Sophia and I were childhood sweethearts. Our two families lived close, and our parents had a good relationship. The first time I saw her was when I transferred to the kindergarten. I was new to everything at that time. When I was encouraged by the teacher to introduce myself on the stage, a boy suddenly laughed and said, "Huh, his voice is so soft, like a girl's." The whole class burst into laughter. I was so embarrassed that my face turned red, and I stood there at a loss. Suddenly, a little girl stood up, pointed at the boy who had laughed just now, and scolded, "So what if his voice is soft? Does that mean he's like a girl? Do you want to compete with me to see who has a louder voice?" The boy mumbled and stopped talking. After school, I gave Sophia my toy car and said thank you. She patted me on the head and said, "You little soft voice, follow me from now on. No one dares to bully you." That was my first meeting with Sophia. Later, I became Sophia's little follower, chasing after her every day. Her parents were surprised by this because their little princess never liked to play with any other children. Sophia said proudly, "James is different from others. He listens to me, and besides, he's kind of cute." When I was a child, I didn't know what love was. I just knew that I liked to be with Sophia. Besides being a bit temperamental, she was very nice to me. She would hold my hand, buy me delicious food, and stand up for me against other classmates. It wasn't until high school when Sophia's attitude towards me changed first that I realized our relationship had gone beyond ordinary friendship. In high school, because of my good grades, the teacher often asked me to help explain problems to other students. Once, a girl suddenly blushed and said she liked me, which startled me. I told Sophia about this, and she suddenly turned gloomy. Her eyes seemed to be able to eat people, and she said through gritted teeth, "Stay away from her in the future. Don't explain problems to her, and don't see her again." I blinked and looked at her, asking, "Why?" Sophia stared at me for a while, and finally said impatiently, "Because she's trying to have a puppy love with you, which will affect your college entrance examination." "Oh." I nodded and then asked her, "Why are you so angry?" Sophia was stunned for a moment and said, "Am I angry?" "Well, and you blushed too." She touched her own face and said, "Your own. Anyway, you can only be good to me." Although Sophia didn't say it clearly, my intuition told me that, like in the TV dramas, she was jealous. I gradually noticed that when I stared into her eyes, she would blush. When I played basketball with other boys, her eyes were always on me. When we held hands, her fingers would gently scratch my palm. All these things seemed to tell me one fact: Sophia liked me. The moment this thought flashed through my mind, I also blushed and my heart raced. I was a little afraid to look at her. I realized that I actually liked her too. From then on, I became more concerned about her and accompanied her. No matter how busy Sophia was, I would wait for her to finish school together. I learned the games she liked to play with her, I watched the movies, followed the stars, and read the books she liked. Our roles seemed to be reversed. Before, she took care of me, now, I took care of her. I reminded Sophia to have breakfast on time every day, not to stay up late at night, and to add clothes when the weather changed. When she was sick, I would stay by her side, buy her medicine, and feed her water. At first, Sophia often said thank you shyly, but later, I don't know when, she began to get tired of my care. She became impatient with my nagging and would even lose her temper at me. One day in the first semester of senior high school, Sophia borrowed money from me to go to a celebrity's concert with her friends and asked me to keep it from her mother. I asked, "How much do you need?" Sophia pouted and said, 2,000 yuan. So much. I was surprised. "What's wrong? You don't want to?" she asked unhappily. "No, it's just..." I hesitated about how to explain to her. But Sophia directly interrupted me and said impatiently, "Just what? James, you're not going to be so stingy, are you? We've been childhood sweethearts for so many years, and you're not willing to lend me this little money." I said, "I'm not unwilling, it's just..." "Forget it, I'll give it to you." She smiled. I looked at the smile on her face, feeling complicated. I didn't want to spoil her fun. After all, this was something that made her very happy. But later, I found that Sophia became more and more addicted. She not only delayed her own studies but also borrowed money from many other classmates. Every day, besides going to class, Sophia was researching what activities her favorite celebrity had, what magazines were out, and how many copies of the online album she had to buy. She was also arguing with people online every day. I was really worried about her, so I decided to tell her mother about it. Sophia's mother had a talk with her and asked her to move out of the dormitory. In the last year of high school, her mother rented a house near the school to accompany her. Once, when I went to see Sophia, she gave me a cold look. Sophia looked at me and said angrily, "James, are you crazy?" My face turned red immediately, and I explained, "I'm doing this for your own good. It's senior high school now, and you're so addicted to chasing stars. Moreover, if you borrow too much money, I'm afraid you'll be cheated into getting involved with usury." Sophia directly glared at me and said, "You have paranoia. You're nuts." I bit my lip. My heart seemed to be pricked by a needle, and I said, "Wronged, I'm sorry." She turned around, with her back to me, and said impatiently, "I don't want to hear you talk. You can leave." I stood there for a while and then left silently. Later, we didn't talk to each other until Christmas. Sophia suddenly came to my classroom with a huge plush doll. "Sorry, James. I shouldn't have lost my temper with you before. This is for you. Do you like it?" Looking at the fluffy big bear in front of me, I couldn't help but reach out and touch it. My heart softened instantly. I said happily, "I like it." She then asked, "Can you forgive me?" I hesitated for a moment and then nodded. She smiled and said, "That's good." One day later, Sophia suddenly asked me, "By the way, which school do you want to apply to for the college entrance examination?" She said excitedly, "I want to be a lawyer and go to Harvard University." "Really?" My eyes lit up, and I replied without hesitation, "Then I'll also apply to Harvard University." "That's great." She smiled and said, "Then we'll be alumni in the future and can be together every day again." She bent down and whispered in my ear, "James, we'll be together forever and never be apart." My face turned red instantly. My grades were not as good as Sophia's, and it was a bit of a stretch for me to apply to Harvard University. But for her words of being together forever, I worked desperately hard. In senior high school, I stayed up late studying several times and even took glucose. At that time, I naively thought that as long as I worked hard enough, I could be with Sophia forever. Until the day of filling out the college application, I was still asking Sophia expectantly, "Sophia, did you apply to Harvard University?" She nodded casually. At that time, I didn't know that she had already chosen Stanford University. Her claim of wanting to be a lawyer and applying to Harvard was just a lie she made up on purpose to find a school far away from Stanford so that I couldn't pester her anymore. She didn't want to be with me at all. She even made up such a ridiculous lie just to get rid of me. For me, a school without Sophia was the same no matter where it was. I muddled through every day. I didn't listen carefully in class and spent most of the time in a daze, thinking about her, wondering what she was doing, and if she had a little bit of regret. In fact, she didn't have to do this. As long as she said she didn't want me to pester her anymore, I would definitely leave her far away. But she chose the cruelest way. I lay on the bed in the dormitory, looking at the pale ceiling. My heart seemed to have a piece of flesh cut out, feeling empty. Throughout the first semester of my freshman year, I was in a very strange mood. I was lost and self-abased. All kinds of negative emotions drowned me. I began to doubt that maybe I was really as stupid as Sophia said. Otherwise, why was she so eager to get rid of me? During that time, I wasted my time, staying in the dormitory playing games all day long and not going anywhere. With this ridiculous idea, I spent my first semester in college. Until the Chinese New Year holiday, when I was taking the train home, I saw a man hitting a woman. Many people around were just watching. Until a beautiful woman stood up, stopped the man's violence, and said she had recorded and taken pictures. The man's behavior was illegal and he could go to jail. The man stopped and stammered, "What are you talking about?" "I'm just teaching my wife a lesson." "What does it have to do with you?" The beauty remained calm and said, "I'm a lawyer, specializing in domestic violence cases. This is my lawyer's license. Do you think it has nothing to do with me?" Then she said to the beaten woman, "Do you want to sue your husband? Considering it's almost the new year, I can waive the lawyer's fee." The woman was stunned at first and then looked at the man with some fear. The beauty reached out her hand to her. After hesitating for a long time, she finally held that hand, stood up, and hid behind the beauty, shouting, "I want to sue." Looking at the woman's grateful eyes, I suddenly deeply understood the meaning of the word lawyer. It was no longer a distant term but represented justice, courage, and the fight against evil. So lawyers were such an important existence. They could save those struggling in despair and maintain justice and fairness in the world. I picked up my books again and started to study seriously. I stopped thinking about Sophia and no longer expected her to come back to me one day. I wanted to rely on myself to become an excellent lawyer. I started to make up a lot of the courses I had fallen behind. I spent every day in the library, doing practice problems and memorizing laws all night. I became one of the most outstanding students in the department. I was always among the top few in every exam and won scholarships easily. At the same time, I was gradually letting go of Sophia. When I could face that past calmly, I realized that I was just used to the days with Sophia. After all, from childhood to now, she had become an important part of my life. But now, I had learned how to be independent, how to let go, and how to move on. I think this is the real growth. And Sophia was gradually forgotten by me in my constant busyness. I started a new life. I no longer needed her. Later, I met Olivia. She was the beauty of the art department, 1 grade younger than me, and also a popular figure in the school. She and several friends established a comic studio and were recruiting law students to be intern consultants. Since I planned to take the postgraduate entrance examination and didn't need to intern at a formal law firm like other students, I applied. I was in contact with art students for the first time. I just thought they were all amazing. With the same pen, they could depict such a wonderful world. Among the people in the comic studio, I liked Olivia's paintings the most. Her use of colors was bold, and the pictures were very dynamic. I could often watch her paint for a whole day. One day, Olivia looked back at me shyly and asked if I wanted to learn how to paint. I nodded eagerly. I sat in the position Olivia usually sat in. She bent down behind me. At first, she just simply guided me on how to draw lines, and later she held my hand and taught me to paint stroke by stroke. My heart was beating very fast, and then I heard her ask, "James, we're not considered to be having a puppy love now. Will you be my boyfriend?" I nodded blankly. But why did puppy love sound so familiar? That day, with Olivia's reminder, I remembered that she was actually the girl from the neighboring class who had confessed to me in high school. At that time, I rejected her on the grounds that I didn't want to have a puppy love. But she still liked me all the time. Olivia didn't have good grades, so she later decided to study fine arts. She actually got into a decent university in the first college entrance examination, but she chose to repeat her senior year of high school just to get a higher score and enter Harvard University where I was studying. When I heard this, I was completely stunned. Throughout high school, my mind and eyes were filled only with Sophia. Olivia was from the neighboring class. When I was helping her with her studies, I didn't really pay much attention to her face. After her confession made Sophia angry, I never saw her again. So I had long forgotten what that silly girl who blushed and lowered her head while confessing to me looked like. I never expected that this silly girl would follow me all the way to college. All of Olivia's friends knew that she had a crush on me and they deliberately created opportunities for us to be alone every day. The so-called recruitment of an intern legal consultant for the comic studio was actually aimed at me. They set a trap and waited for me, the big fish, to jump in voluntarily. After I joined Olivia's studio, her friends kept nagging in front of her every day, "Olivia, if you like him, go for it." Yeah, these days, it's not the guy who has to take the initiative. It would be a pity if a guy like James gets snatched away by someone else. But, he's so outstanding, would he even fancy you? Ha ha ha. Encouraged by her friends, Olivia had long made up her mind to find a place and have a grand confession. But today, she just couldn't hold back. Blushing, she said shyly, "Should I confess again? Give me a more formal one." I gently punched her and then kissed her on the cheek, saying, "Come on, be honest. Have you had your eyes on me for a long time?" Olivia sat on the sofa, looking at me with a smile. I walked over and rubbed her face, saying, "Yes, I've been eyeing you for ages." When I blankly nodded and agreed to be her boyfriend, I was indeed a bit tempted by her beauty. Was she this good looking back in high school? Unfortunately, I didn't notice anyone else at that time. After Olivia and I got together officially, I finally experienced what it was like to be loved. Olivia accompanied me every day. She often bought me all kinds of delicious food, and during holidays, she would prepare small gifts for me, creating all sorts of little surprises. She was a girl, and in school, she was 1 grade younger than me, my junior. But she always acted like a caring beauty, taking care of me and showing concern for me everywhere. She was worried that I might get a stomach problem, so every morning she would send me a message to remind me to have breakfast. Sometimes, when I wanted to stay in bed and didn't feel like eating, she would buy breakfast and bring it to the downstairs of my dormitory. As I ate my breakfast, I secretly peeked at her. She was really fair and cute. But recently, because she had been drawing a lot, there were dark circles under her beautiful eyes. I was worried that she didn't get enough sleep, so she lay in my arms and told me that she was full of energy. I couldn't help but laugh and said, "You're just trying to comfort me." Olivia leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Don't you believe me? Let's see tonight." Unconsciously, I became more and more dependent on Olivia. I got used to her being by my side. If I didn't see her for a day, I would feel uncomfortable instead. During the winter vacation, Olivia insisted on seeing me off. I hugged her and comforted her, saying, "You can just send me to the station. You don't need to get on the train with me. I'll be home soon." Olivia pouted, looking unhappy. "Are you in such a hurry to get rid of me?" "No, She looked at me pitifully. "I just can't bear to part with you." My heart softened. I held her face and kissed her. "Okay, me too. I'll video chat with you every day." "Really?" Olivia looked at me, her eyes still a bit sad. "Okay, be good." I stroked her head. I'll video chat with you every day, okay? Well, twice a day then. Olivia finally stopped crying and smiled, then came up and kissed me again. My face turned red, but I didn't push her away. When I got home, my parents were very happy to see me. My mom helped me carry my luggage and asked me mysteriously, "Guess who I ran into just now?" I asked in confusion, "Who?" Mom said, "Of course it's Sophia." I just gave a faint response and didn't show any special reaction. Mom was a bit surprised, "Is that all?" I thought you'd ask if she brought her boyfriend back. I was stunned for a moment. Sophia brought her boyfriend back. Mom smiled at me and said, "Yeah, he just came to our house to say hello. He's a pretty handsome guy." I smiled, "Really? That's nice." Mom looked at me curiously, "Aren't you jealous?" I said indifferently, "Why would I be jealous? She's not my girlfriend." Mom asked, not believing me, "Didn't you always like her?" I explained helplessly, "I always regarded Sophia as my sister. It's not as exaggerated as you think." Mom was about to say something, but I interrupted her. "By the way, Mom, I have something to tell you. I'm in a relationship." Mom's eyes widened. "When did this happen? Why didn't you tell us?" I said happily, "Just recently. I haven't had the chance to tell you yet." "Where is the girl from? How old is she? What does she do?" Mom bombarded me with a bunch of questions. I couldn't help but laugh. "Mom, look at you, so eager. You'll know when the time comes." Mom looked at me affectionately, "You kid, since when did you start keeping secrets from Mom?" On New Year's Eve, I had New Year's Eve dinner with Sophia's family. Our parents were chatting happily. Sophia, her boyfriend, and I were sitting on the sofa. Unexpectedly, Sophia was very mean to her boyfriend, constantly scolding him for being stupid and saying he couldn't talk or do things right. When her boyfriend picked up food for her, she said angrily, "Don't you know I don't eat this?" He said softly, "Sorry, I forgot." Sophia rolled her eyes at him and said disdainfully, "Guys like you just don't know how to respect girls." He put down his chopsticks and explained, "How did I not respect you?" Sophia snorted and pointed at him, "If you respected me, you wouldn't forget what I like and don't like to eat." I looked at Sophia and listened to her words, feeling a mix of emotions. I thought of Olivia. Olivia and I would also have conflicts and quarrels, but she would never treat me like this. Olivia would gently tell me what I did wrong and what needed to be improved, and she would also gently encourage me to do better. Olivia never scolded me or disliked me. Instead, she would hug me, kiss me, and say to me, "James, I like you so much." Suddenly, I really missed Olivia. I wanted to call her baby, hug her, and kiss her. I didn't know what she was doing at the moment or if she was thinking of me. I couldn't help but take out my phone and send her a text message. At this moment, Sophia suddenly said, "James, who are you chatting with?" I replied calmly, "My girlfriend." Her boyfriend, upon hearing this, asked me curiously, "James, you have a girlfriend too? How old is she? How tall is she? How far have you two gone?" I smiled and said, "Well, we've developed as far as we should." Sophia lowered her eyes, and her pupils flickered. At the dinner table, Mom suddenly asked, "James, Sophia has brought her boyfriend. When are you going to bring your little girlfriend for us to meet?" I subconsciously glanced at Sophia and found that she was also looking at me. I quickly looked away. Sophia's mom also smiled and chimed in, "Yeah, James, you've grown up. Let me and your mom check if that girl is reliable." I shook my head and said, "In about 2 years. When our relationship is more stable, I'll bring her to meet you and uncle and auntie." Just as I finished speaking, Sophia beside me suddenly put down her chopsticks. "I'm full. You guys eat slowly." Then she got up and left. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing what was going on. Looking at her leaving back, I suddenly thought it was a bit funny. She was still so childish. At night, I was in my room, about to video chat with Olivia, when I suddenly received a text message, "I'm waiting for you downstairs." I was startled. It was Sophia's phone number. What did she want? After thinking for a while, I put on my coat and went downstairs. The winter night was cold, and the streetlights were dim. Sophia's slender figure was projected under the streetlight. Her eyes were heavy, and her expression was gloomy. I walked up to her and asked, "What do you want?" Sophia was silent for a while, then she said, "I'm sorry." I exclaimed in confusion, "Ah." Sophia continued, "I lied to you about applying to Harvard University." I didn't expect her to bring this up suddenly. I was stunned for a moment, then smiled faintly, "It's okay. It's all in the past. I just didn't want you to pester me anymore, so I said that." She lowered her head and continued, "Actually, I don't like law at all, and I don't want to be a lawyer. I just wanted to get rid of you, so I asked you to apply to that school." I reacted calmly, just telling her that everything was over.
Do you still blame me? Sophia asked.
No, I don't. I shook my head and continued, actually, you didn't do anything wrong.
You just didn't like me. Sophia, when did you start not wanting to be with me anymore?
She sighed and said, probably in the second year of high school.
At that time, I felt that you were getting more and more clingy. Wherever I went, you followed.
I really hated guys being like that, so I thought that going to college would get rid of you.
I'm sorry, James. I was too young back then and didn't understand my own feelings, so I hurt you. Now I know I was wrong. If I could do it over again, I definitely wouldn't make that choice.
You know, James, after going to college, I thought I could finally live freely, but I found out I was wrong.
I didn't have a good life at all.
I thought about you every day, thinking about the expectant look in your eyes when you asked me about my college choices. I looked at Sophia like this and suddenly felt she was very strange. It turned out that I had really completely let go of my obsession with her over the past 10+ years.
It's okay. It's all in the past. I'm doing well now.
I smiled at her and said, really, I'm very happy and satisfied now.
You have your path to follow, and I have mine.
Although we got separated once, now we've both found our own ways.
That's enough.
Sophia looked at me, her eyes full of guilt, and asked, so you forgive me?
I nodded. Sophia's eyes lit up, then can we?
I directly interrupted her, Sophia, the past is over.
We should all look forward.
I patted her on the shoulder and smiled, we're still friends after all these years.
I also hope you'll live well.
When we have time in the future, I'll bring my girlfriend, and you bring your boyfriend, and we can hang out together again. Sophia looked at me, her face pale, and her lips trembling slightly. After a long silence, she gave a bitter smile. I was always worried that you would hate me and blame me, but now that you don't, I feel even worse. She seemed to want to say something, but finally only said, James, pursue your dream well.
You'll definitely become a great lawyer. Wish you happiness. Thank you. You too. I waved to her and turned to leave. After the vacation ended, I returned to school.
One day, I was walking on the playground with Olivia when I suddenly received a call from Sophia.
Hello, James. Are you free tonight? I want to invite you out for a meal. I replied, I'm with my girlfriend.
There was a moment of silence on the other end, then she said, bring her along. Your girlfriend is like my sister-in-law. I thought for a while and said helplessly, okay, then tell me where.
On the phone, she said eagerly, meet me at the school gate. I'm almost there. After hanging up the phone, I was a bit puzzled.
Why was Sophia being so proactive all of a sudden?
Olivia didn't think much of it.
When she heard someone was treating us to a meal, she said happily, great.
I can have a free meal again.
I was amused by her. However, when I saw Sophia's luxury car, I couldn't help but twitch my lips. Sophia saw me and Olivia holding hands, and her eyes dimmed for a moment.
Olivia didn't react much.
She pulled me and got into the car directly. I looked at Sophia in confusion and asked, where are we going? She replied indifferently, you'll know later. I thought Sophia would take us to a barbecue place or a food stall. Unexpectedly, the car stopped in front of a high-end coffee shop. Sophia let us in, and the waiter immediately greeted us warmly. I took a look at the decoration of the coffee shop. It was obvious that the consumption was high.
Olivia looked around curiously and whispered to me, the things here must be very expensive, right? I nodded and said, probably. I've never been to such a fancy place.
I looked at her worriedly, will you feel uncomfortable?
No, since someone's treating us. You silly thing.
She lowered her head and smiled, James, as long as I can be with you, I don't mind being a silly girl. I gently punched her, but my heart felt warm. During the meal, Sophia kept asking me what I had been doing recently, how my studies were going, and if I needed any help.
I answered them one by one. She nodded and didn't say anything more.
After the meal, Sophia sent us back to school. After getting off the car, Olivia suddenly said, thank you for the dinner today.
I really enjoyed it. Sophia smiled, you're welcome. I'm glad you liked it. Well, another day, you should try the food in our cafeteria.
Although it can't compare with this restaurant, it tastes pretty good. Sophia was stunned for a moment, then nodded, okay, I will. Back in the dormitory, Olivia suddenly said, that Sophia, was she trying to show off her wealth in front of us today?
Ah. I was stunned, how could that be? She's not that kind of person. Actually, I wasn't so sure. Sophia's behavior today did seem like showing off, but was she always like this?
I always knew her family was much richer than mine, but her parents and my parents had always gotten along very casually. Sophia had never flaunted her status as a rich kid in school.
You're just too naive. Only us girls can tell these things. She still likes you.
Olivia pinched my face and continued, she must think she's not as good looking as me, so she wants to beat me in terms of money, make me feel insecure, and make me give up.
I couldn't help but laugh. What are you thinking? She wouldn't think like that. She blinked and said, of course I won't give up. I'm very confident. Such a small thing won't affect a beauty like me.
I didn't know whether to laugh or cry and comforted her, don't think too much.
She has a boyfriend. Olivia shrugged. After that, Sophia came more frequently. She either gave me all kinds of small gifts or invited me out for dinner.
Once, I casually mentioned in my WeChat moments that a pair of limited edition sneakers were sold out and I didn't get them.
What a pity.
The next day, Sophia brought the pair of sneakers to me, saying she bought them at a high price from someone else.
I was a bit helpless. Sophia, why are you giving me this? She asked in confusion, don't you like them?
I quickly shook my head and said, it's not that I don't like them, but you don't have to give them to me. I can try to get the sneakers if I can.
If I can't, it's not a big deal.
You don't need to waste money.
Sophia looked at me and smiled, it doesn't matter. I think they suit you, so I bought them. You'll look good in them.
But, before I could finish, she had already stuffed the shoebox into my hands, just take them.
I'm happy anyway.
I looked at her, suddenly feeling a bit at a loss. It seemed that things were getting out of my control. From that day on, I rejected all of Sophia's invitations to meet, whether it was for a meal or shopping.
Why won't you see me? Sophia called and asked. There's no need. How can there be no need?
Sophia said anxiously, James, we're friends.
Isn't it normal for friends to meet?
Yes, but you're getting too close.
I said calmly, you have your life, and I have mine. We shouldn't have too much interaction. What do you mean by our lives?
Sophia said painfully, James, you can't just abandon me like this. I took a deep breath and said, Sophia, I never belonged to you in the first place, so it's not about abandonment.
It's late. I'm going to sleep. Tomorrow morning, I'll wait for you downstairs of your dormitory. Sophia suddenly said. The next morning, I indeed saw Sophia downstairs of the dormitory.
She seemed to have lost a lot of weight. Her eyes were sunken. I looked at her and said helplessly, why are you doing this? Sophia looked at me with red eyes and said, James, I want to see you.
Do you really have to be so cruel to me?
I looked straight into her eyes and said, the cruel one is you. You were the one who wanted to break up with me back then, and now you're pestering me again.
What exactly do you want from me? I want to be with you. Sophia blurted out. I was stunned and asked in surprise, Sophia, what did you say?
Sophia lowered her eyes and said pitifully, I said I want to go back to the way we were. I smiled and said to her calmly, Sophia, we can't go back.
Sophia said painfully, why not? As long as you're willing, we can go back to the past. I shook my head and said, it's impossible. You're not the person you used to be, and neither am I. Just like a broken mirror, even if you glue it back together, there will still be cracks. Sophia fell silent.
After a long while, she said, James, I still like the you from when we were kids. Back then, you were like sunshine, only bringing me warmth and not causing me so much pain. I continued, yeah, everyone just wants to be warmed by others and doesn't want to be the one who gives more.
You've actually reminded me that I should treat Olivia even better in the future.
Sophia was taken aback, and her expression became a bit complicated as she said, James, you.
It's getting late. I'm going back now.
I said, waving my hand at her and turning to leave. During the Mid-Autumn Festival, Sophia called me again. Out of respect for the festival, I answered.
James, how are you doing now? I replied calmly, I'm doing well. How about you?
She was silent for a few seconds and then said, I broke up with my boyfriend.
I just replied simply, I see. I almost wanted to laugh.
So she had been pestering me to get back together and show her loyalty even before breaking up with her boyfriend. I felt a bit disgusted with Sophia for the first time. Actually, I didn't know how to face her either. In my parents' eyes, Sophia had always been a good girl. She had good grades, a cute appearance, and good manners. Moreover, the Yi family and my family were friends.
Uncle Yi and Sophia's mom were also very nice to me. They gave me all kinds of gifts every year on my birthday.
Now that I think about it, perhaps it was precisely because of these reasons that I didn't completely fall out with Sophia. I didn't want to make things difficult for our parents. Sophia cried and said, James, I'm sorry for what happened back then.
But I know I was wrong now. Can you give me a chance?
I replied firmly, no. I didn't know what to say for a moment, but I knew I had to be decisive. I took a deep breath and said to Sophia in a firm tone, Sophia, I've said this many times. I have a girlfriend, and I love her very much. Please stop pestering me. But. Sophia was about to say something, but I didn't want to hear it anymore. There's no but. Please take care of yourself. Goodbye. I said and hung up the phone forcefully. After that, Sophia never contacted me again, and my relationship with Olivia became more and more stable. After graduating from college, I successfully entered a well-known law firm in New York. After earning enough money and fame in a large internet company, Olivia started her own business. Then, I proposed to her. Olivia said, I'll have a lot of free time from now on. You're in charge of making money outside, and I'll be your homemaker at home. I touched her head and said, Are you serious? She slapped my hand away and said, I'm very serious, James. I've liked you since high school, almost for 10 years. In the next 10 years, 20 years, for a lifetime, I'll treat you well. I was deeply moved. With the most sincere heart, I put the ring on her finger. On the day I promised to accompany Olivia to try on wedding dresses, I took an early leave to pick her up. But as soon as I entered the parking lot, I suddenly felt dizzy. When I woke up again, I found myself in Sophia's car. What are you doing? I looked at her warily. Sophia turned around, looked at me, and said with intense eyes, James, long time no see. I asked nervously, Where are you taking me? She smiled and said, Of course, I'm taking you to a place where no one can find us. The car kept driving. I looked around at the unfamiliar scenery and asked her anxiously what she was up to. Along the way, Sophia kept muttering to herself, You've forgotten. This was a request you once made. She looked at me with deep eyes and said, You said that after we went to college, we would go on a road trip together. But now, you're with another woman, and you're going to marry her. Sophia stopped the car, walked towards me step by step, pinned me against the car door, placed her hands on either side of my head, and looked at me with blazing eyes. James, do you know how much I like you? Do you know how much I hate you? I wish I could lock you up so that you would only belong to me forever. I shouted angrily, Sophia, you're crazy. Yeah, I'm crazy. Sophia said, looking at me with a mixture of obsession, sadness, and despair in her eyes. I think about you every day. I'm almost going crazy. James, what do you think I should do? James, I think about you every day. Sophia's voice was choked with sobs. I keep thinking that if we could go back to the past, if we could be together every day like before. James, don't marry her, okay? Be with me, okay? I looked at her and said word by word, no. Sophia asked in disbelief, Even if I'm begging you like this, you still won't turn back? I nodded and replied, yes. She asked reluctantly, Even if I'll be sad and heartbroken, you still won't turn back? I still nodded and said, yes. Sophia looked at me with red eyes and said, Even if I die, you still won't turn back? I looked at her and replied firmly, Sophia, do you really want me to be this harsh? She looked at me, then suddenly burst out laughing. Tears streamed down her face as she laughed, ha, ha. Since that's the case, don't blame me. What are you going to do? I looked at her nervously, instinctively trying to escape, but found that she had locked the car door. What are you doing? I struggled desperately, but somehow, after she gave me something, my hands and feet became weak. Sophia didn't answer me. She unbuckled her seatbelt and started taking off her clothes, mumbling, Don't do this. Once we have sex, you have to take responsibility for me. Otherwise, my parents won't let you go. She looked at me with obsessed and fanatical eyes. I shook my head desperately, trying to avoid her approaching kiss. In a moment of desperation, I hit my head hard against the car window, trying to attract the attention of people outside. Blood gushed out immediately. Sophia was shocked and stared at me, trembling, James, you. Help! I shouted with all my might, help! There's a crazy person here. Sophia reached out to cover my mouth, and I bit her hand hard. Ah! Sophia cried out in pain. Just then, 2 female students appeared outside the car window and slapped the window hard, asking, Is there anyone in there? Are you okay? Sophia rolled down the window and forced a smile, saying, This is a private matter between me and my boyfriend. Mind your own business. The 2 female students didn't leave. Instead, they took out their phones and started taking pictures of the license plate, saying, Let me tell you, we're studying law, and we know what's right. Your current behavior is a crime, and we'll call the police. Sophia glared at them furiously. At that moment, I took the opportunity to grab an ornament in the car and smashed it hard on her head. She let out a muffled groan and fainted. I straightened my clothes, opened the car door, and stumbled out. The 2 girls rushed over to help me. Are you okay?
I said gratefully, I'm okay. Thank you. They looked at my injured head and said with concern, it's okay. We just happened to pass by and saw you struggling inside, so we came to take a look. By the way, we've already called the police. They'll be here soon. Thank you, thank you. I was still in shock, gasping for breath, and my mind was blank. Soon, my parents and Sophia's parents rushed over with the police. When Sophia was taken away by the police, she was crying hysterically. Her mother rushed over and slapped her. Sophia looked at me and cried, James, I only did this because I like you so much. I looked at her, feeling that she was as pitiful as a homeless dog. I said coldly, I won't forgive you, and I don't want to see you again. You'll be punished by law, and I won't have any feelings for you anymore. People like you don't deserve love. With that, I turned and left. James! Sophia shouted loudly. I didn't stop and kept walking forward. She shouted hysterically, James, I was wrong. I was wrong. I sneered, wrong. If Sophia really knew she was wrong, she wouldn't have done this. People like her only think about themselves and never consider others. Just like before, Sophia deliberately made me apply to a university miles away from her, Harvard University, to get rid of me. And when I just graduated, I looked for a job locally for half a month, but no law firm was willing to hire me. Later, I found out that Sophia was behind it. She wanted to force me to go back to my hometown. However, with Olivia's encouragement, I made up my mind to go to New York and start over with her. Humph, this so-called love is just her possessiveness. Sophia, you'll never understand what true love is. I never want to see you again. Half a year later, I married Olivia. Amidst the blessings of everyone, I made a lifetime promise, Olivia, I am willing to marry you. Whether in poverty or wealth, in health or sickness, I will always be with you and love you forever. Olivia looked at me with eyes full of love and said, James, I am willing to marry you. No matter what difficulties we encounter, I will always be with you and support you forever. I put the ring on her finger, and in the cheers of everyone, we hugged and kissed. I knew this was true love.